There was a time when playing in a New Year's Day Bowl was a big deal. Not so much these days. Not when you're used to playing in huge games. Every year since 2009, there have been an Alabama or Auburn team playing in a playoff game or a national title game. This year, a tied team with 2 losses and without Tua is playing in the Citrus Bowl against Michigan. Auburn, the Iron Bowl champs, looks for a 10th win against Minnesota in the Outback Bowl. Not the bowl game either team wanted, but one thing hasn't changed. Winning on January 1st is a great way to ring in the new year.
It's time for the Auburn-Alabama Bowl Game Preview with Patrick Brickman in Tampa, Jamie Hale in Orlando, and your host in the ABC 3340 studios in Birmingham, Jeff Spiegel.
Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. Happy Bowl Game Eve. Tomorrow at noon on ABC 3340, Alabama and Michigan go at it in the Citrus Bowl. At the same time, Auburn and Minnesota have it out in the Outback Bowl. That's on ESPN. Bowl games are all about motivation, and Alabama coach Nick Saban is hoping his guys' minds are in the right place. Have they shaken off that Iron Bowl loss? Well, for that matter, has Michigan shaken off that loss to its arch rival, the Ohio State Buckeyes? This is the 5th meeting between these two blue bloods. Series tied at 2. Michigan, the all-time leader in wins with 962, including 11 national championships. After Ohio State and Yale comes Alabama with 915 wins. The Tide claims 17 national titles. When it comes to coaching matchups, the Citrus Bowl might have the best one of bowl season. Jamie Hale joins us from Orlando. And Jamie, I think Nick Saban versus Jim Harbaugh is a matchup both fan bases have wanted to see ever since Harbaugh got the Michigan job.
Yeah, it's a coaching matchup fans have been waiting for a while. Nick Saban versus Jim Harbaugh. And all eyes were glued on them as they entered the press conference this morning. These two share quite the history, from beefing in the past to trading shots with the media.
Look, I have no beef about Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's fine with me. I didn't say anything about him. I didn't. And I'm not saying anything about him right now.
Saban and Harbaugh had something to say while sitting next to each other just one day before coaching against each other in the Citrus Bowl.
I've always had a tremendous respect for Jim and his family as coaches, and I would certainly cherish and have tremendous gratitude for the opportunity to be able to sit down with Jim.
Put both coaches in an empty room, no outside noise, 1 hour to pick each other's brains.
That'd be a real treat. There's really nobody better. I have tremendous respect for Coach Saban.
It would be interesting. Saban's considered one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. He's coached since the 70s and has won 6 national championships.
Well, I've had the good fortune of having a lot of good mentors, through the years.
Harbaugh has helped establish Michigan's program with 2 seasons of postseason contention, but they have yet to beat Ohio State. And just like the Buckeyes, the Crimson Tide sit at the top of the college football landscape, where the Wolverines want to be. Beating Bama would get them closer to that spot.
There's just a lot of excitement to play an iconic program like Alabama. Coach Saban, his staff, have really set the bar. And it's a big challenge for us. Great opportunity for our season.
This game against a very, very good team that has great tradition is certainly an opportunity for our players to play well against a good team. Maybe you can diminish some of the disappointments of the season.
Now, these two teams have been preparing for 3 weeks now, and they said today they got that feeling that they're ready to go, and they are fired up about this opportunity. Live in Orlando, Jamie Hale, ABC 3340 Sports.
All right, thanks, Jamie. We'll hear from you later. In Tampa, Gus Malzahn has been happy with his team's energy, enthusiasm. He likes to use the words locked in when it comes to his team. It's been a good week of practice for both Auburn and Minnesota. In Tampa, the Tigers in search of that 10th win. They've got a lot of momentum after that Iron Bowl victory. The Gophers had a 10-win regular season for the first time since the Roosevelt administration, the Teddy Roosevelt administration. The Outback Bowl also has an intriguing coaching matchup. Gus Malzahn pushing the tempo, P.J. Fleck rowing the boat. Patrick Brickman joins us live from Tampa. And Patrick, they're squaring off in a New Year's Day Bowl, so they're doing something right.
Yeah, Jeff, you're not wrong. And they might not be the polar opposites that Saban and Harbaugh are, but really at this point, who is? But there are 2 different styles at play here. You've got Gus Malzahn in his third Outback Bowl. He's the experienced guy here. And then PJ Fleck, the young up-and-comer with all the energy in the world. But let me tell you, nothing but respect between these two.
You know, always look at when they play a big game, and they played a huge game, and Penn State was there, and College game day, they played one of their best games. So they're not they're not scared away from the big moment.
The last time Minnesota won 10 regular season games, 1905. Nobody in the country can match the upward energy of this Gopher team.
But when you look at what we've done, it's close to 100 firsts or nevers, and then about 49 restorations, we call them. Maybe things that haven't happened since 1904 or 1956 or 1965.
And still, the coach that's famous for rowing the boat knows he's met his match on the other sideline, a coach that's known for sinking much bigger ships.
A lot of respect for Coach Malzahn and what he's been able to do, because he is. He's one of the best offensive mind in college football, in the whole game of football, and that's well documented.
You won't find a lack of motivation from the Tigers. They felt the sting of a lackluster performance to end the season 2 years ago against UCF. This group of guys refuses to go out that way.
We didn't play our best game, and that hurt. That hurt a lot of the guys, but it helped us, last year. So I think the motivation factor, I mean, we can have fun back home, but our guys are here to win a football game.
A special group of seniors laying it all on the field one last time.
We talked about it's our last rodeo, man. Let's enjoy this. So it's a real special moment. I mean, you always want to do your best as a coach to help those guys go out on a positive note.
And worth noting, PJ Fleck was definitely going to be getting some offers to coach at bigger programs, but he turned all that down to sign an extension in Minnesota. And let me tell you, we all know that Auburn knows a thing or two about guys turning down big money to stay there. So all the loyalties tomorrow will be in the Outback Bowl. Jeff?
All right, Patrick, thanks so much. Still to come on the Bowl Game Preview Special, the comeback story of Alabama basketball play-by-play man Chris Stewart. And Patrick Brickman visits with Auburn's Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson, two All-Americans, roommates, buddies, hoping to go out in style tomorrow in Tampa. After Auburn's last on-campus practice, it's tradition that the seniors get carried off the field. 4 years of sweat and, yes, in many cases, blood poured out on that practice field. They do deserve a ride off into the sunset of their college football career. Marlon Davidson and Derek Brown could have gone pro after their junior year. They didn't, and they both had huge senior seasons. Patrick Brickman rejoins us from Tampa. And, Patrick, it's really hard to imagine those guys not going out together.
Oh, it really is, Jeff. They met as high school juniors, and they've done really everything together ever since, including, like you said, deciding to come back to Auburn to play as seniors. So naturally, we wanted to talk to them together before their final game, and naturally, they were, as always, amazing, really fun to talk to. Just take a listen. And the first thing I want to talk about is we got to see some pictures. We didn't see any video of it, but a one-on-one that you guys did at practice last week. Who was getting the best of that one-on-one drill right there?
He said it's a stalemate, so he wins.
Whoa. A stalemate?
That's what he said.
Okay.
The first one, he jumped outside, so we're not going to count that one. We agreed on that. Second one, he said it was a stalemate, so he said he won, so I gave it to him.
Okay, but now you're both seniors at Auburn. You had this competition going throughout the season, SEC Defensive Player of the Week award. I know you guys know how many you had. Let's go ahead and tell me.
I had 4, he had 3. I won technically, but he got the all-time greatest award with SEC.
I got SEC Defensive Player of the Year.
But
that's like the ace on the king.
But we wasn't doing the SEC Defensive Player of the Year.
This is ace on the king.
We was going by weeks, so technically I won, but I lost.
I want to ask you, is there something about Marlon Davidson that the Auburn fans wouldn't know?
Marlon likes to play Madden, and he has got this thing about him where he will play you for whenever, whatever.
Who's your team?
The Chicago Bears, best defense in the nation.
I like it.
Yes, sir. They got the defense of the world.
All right, so what's something about Derek that the Auburn fans don't know?
I'm pretty sure, I always would say family man. He's a truly outstanding family man. You can't speak enough about that, how he treats his son and just how he always just so much into family.
Would you let Marlon babysit your kid?
Not a chance. Not a chance.
What's your best moment at Auburn?
Best moment at Auburn, man, to be quite frank with you, is beating Alabama, man. It can't get no better than beating Alabama in Auburn. just seeing the fans rush the field, man, it's just like, I was cheering with the fans more than the fans were cheering with me.
I mean, I think that's one for both of us. And another one for both of us is we graduated in December. We got to walk across the stage and get our degree and got to do it in front of our families, man.
And let me tell you, that was a lot of fun getting to talk to those two in that setting. They're just genuine, funny people, that two guys that I know all Auburn fans are going to miss watching on Saturdays, and admittedly, us media people, we're going to miss covering them. Wouldn't you agree, Jeff?
Oh, absolutely would. Ace on the king. I love that line right there. A lot of juniors on this Alabama football team have big decisions to make. Will they do what Marlon and Derek did at Auburn? When it comes to Tide linebacker Dylan Moses, number 32, the answer is yes. He announced on Instagram last night he was returning for his senior season. He missed the 2019 season with a knee injury. As for Tua Tagovailoa, who was walking on one crutch this week down in Orlando, he's still thinking it over. His focus now is cheering on his teammates and rehabbing that hip. We also don't know what the Tide's talented trio of wide receivers are going to do. Let's go back to Jamie Hale in Orlando. And Jamie, this group has been so much fun to watch.
I mean, this is a group that we are going to be talking about for years to come. This is Alabama's best ever yet wide receiver core. Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, Alabama's relentless receiving corps. Together, this unit calls itself the Rideouts.
It's just a testament to our hard work. I mean, we put in a lot of work over the years. I mean, throughout the summer, spring, fall camp, even during the season.
We wanted the smaller receiver groups, and we always try to be physical and try to play bigger than what we are.
Their size may be smaller than most, but they have one variable that trumps them all: heart.
You start to learn not just the player and the jersey number, you start to learn the character of the players we have, especially on offense, the guys I deal with the most. And these are highly competitive guys now, and these guys strive for excellence.
The passion that we have for it and just the will to want to go out there and dominate. Just when we're out there, we're going to try and just play not only for us, but for everybody.
Each one has a role. Each one has a journey. The competition along the way has never steered them apart. It's drawn them closer together.
We're brothers. We're a pretty close group, so we talk every day just about, things like that, the past, the present, and even the future. So, like I said, we're brothers.
Not only are they physically gifted, not only are they really great competitors, they're tough. Their football IQ is very high, and as a coach, that makes it enjoyable.
They may not be enjoyable to play against, but they are respected.
I think it's a testament to them and their character, and obviously their development. I think they've really kind of established themselves, and just got a tremendous amount of respect for those guys.
This right here.
Now, Wednesday may mark an end of an era. We don't know if this will be the last game all three of them will put on a Bama jersey. It should be any day. We will find out the future of these superstars. Jeff?
All right, Jamie, thank you. Coming up next, a look back at the top plays of the Tide and Tigers in 2019. And Chris Stewart spent all but 1 week of the college football regular season in the hospital. When we come back, the host of the Nick Saban Show, the voice of Alabama basketball, talks about the battle he fought for his life. We'll also hear from those who have helped him on the road to recovery. It is hard to pick out a top play from an entire football season, but here's the one our staff chose from Alabama. Trayvon Diggs' recovery of Tennessee quarterback Jarrett Garantano's fumble and a 100-yard scoop and score. Huge momentum swing for the Tide in another victory over the Vols. Chris Stewart took a season off from hosting the Nick Saban Show, not because he wanted to, because he had to. Stewart's second health scare in a span of just under 2 years also kept him away from his job as Alabama's basketball play-by-play man. He returns to that role Saturday. Recently, I sat down with Chris to talk about his long road to recovery, a road he is still traveling.
6-5, man, lost it on the way in. Ball knocked away. Relaford at 2, launches it mid-court, buzzer.
He is the best play-by-play guy I've certainly ever been around and heard.
From his courtside seat, Chris Stewart has described some miraculous finishes to Crimson Tide basketball games.
He'll run the baseline. Sexton gets it. 3 seconds. 2. Sexton at 1 for the win. It's good! It's good!
In the span of 20 months, Stewart has written 2 personal comeback stories. He suffered a stroke in April 2018, and last August he was back at Brookwood Baptist Medical Center after developing a serious infection while recovering from heart bypass surgery.
The failure with lungs, kidneys, liver, had pneumonia. Basically, if you could have it, I had it. I was in a bad spot.
Did you ever think there was a point where you were going to lose him?
Yes. I don't think I realized how sick he was the first couple of days. He was sick. Like one doctor said, he was as sick as he could be without dying. So those first couple of weeks, just seeing him in a coma, and it was hard. It was hard.
There was a time that was very vivid in my mind where I felt like I heard whoever it was from a medical standpoint make the statement, he's gone, you can bring the family in. And then I remember vividly hearing, wait, not yet. I believe in God, I believe in heaven. I felt like I was very, very close to being there.
Once out of the coma, he was not out of the woods. How hard was it to keep fighting?
There were days that were so tough you wondered if it was worth it.
There were times where we thought he was giving up, because he was just so tired and had been so sick, and trying to show him what all he had to fight for.
In late September, Stewart got a visit from his 8-year-old son, Hudson, the first time he had seen him in 30 days. Kids under 12 are not usually allowed in the ICU. In this case, the hospital made an exception.
So once he saw him, he kind of, lit a spark in him, and he started doing more. I think that was just the medicine that he needed.
On November 5th, Stewart was moved to Spain Rehab Center.
He was just pretty debilitated, weak, poor endurance. He really, it was a struggle for him a lot of days just to sit up on the side of the bed.
A lot of what he needed was just a push to keep on going, to get to the side of the bed and to make that be okay, make that be enough for that day, because that was a struggle. The first week even, getting up out of the bed was sometimes a whole therapy session.
As the days went by, the old Chris returned, along with that sense of humor.
He would crack us up every day.
I'm not going to dunk it when I get to the other end of the hall.
I think that carried him through to be positive. He's really hilarious.
And that took him through a lot of the sessions too, using his humor and personality to get him through the tougher days.
Another mission of rehab was to get the voice of Alabama basketball back to full strength.
The most functional therapy for him to work on getting his head back in the game, quite literally, and his breast support was another one of our biggest goals, was actually doing play-by-play.
How's your play-by-play practice been going with Charlotte?
It's good.
Lewis working off of a screen, works it right side, Petty, step back, fall away, 3, bottom.
I will never forget the first time we did it for about 1 minute.
Jones working against the defender, crosses over, goes down the lane, puts it up with the right hand off the glass, got it to go.
And then we took a break because he was a little bit out of breath. And he put his head back on the bed and closed his eyes and just said, dang, that felt good.
91 days after entering the hospital in August, Stewart came home from Spain Rehab on November 26th.
Welcome home.
He continues outpatient physical therapy with Kathy Pinion.
Go a little side to side. Make him reach. Make him reach.
He calls Kathy, Karen Culverhouse, Abby Heredia, and Charlotte Rogers Chris's angels.
Abby, Karen, and Charlotte, and now Kathy, the care they've given me. And it's really taken me from a spot where you feel like you're spinning your wheels and you're not getting anywhere to, okay, I've got a chance to be normal again.
Normal also means back to being a dad to daughter Ann, sons Hudson and Parker, a husband to wife Christy, who he calls beyond special.
I was having a rough night, rough day. And she grabbed my hands and looked at me and said, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health. And I can't tell you what that did for me.
Tuesday, December 17th, Stewart walked into Legacy Arena to watch Bama practice before their game the following night against Sanford. There were hugs, handshakes from every member of the team.
That was neat. To do things where I feel normal again really meant a lot. The way they received me was more than I could have expected.
To see him walking, on that real walking into the arena with no assistive device and hugging people and standing, it's very exciting.
100,000 views on Twitter.
Of
that video. Well, what about that?
Slow news day.
January 4th, Stewart plans to resume play-by-play duties when the Tide opens SEC play at Florida. His first home game will be January 8th when the Tide plays Mississippi State.
I'll be grateful and appreciative if things are going well, and probably it'll be after it's over with that part will hit me.
I may be over there bawling. Chris will be professional and say all the right things. I'm going to say probably a bunch of stupid stuff, but I will be so excited, thrilled.
I know he's ready, so it'll be good. It'll be good to see him be normal again.
But I genuinely feel like with the progress I've been able to make so far that I'll be ready to go, and I'm excited about that.
Our thanks to Chris's broadcast partner, Brian Passing, for helping us out with that story. Chris and his family, and also to UAB Hospital and Brookwood Baptist Medical Center for their help in telling us Chris's story. Coming up, some final thoughts from Patrick Brickman with the Tigers in Tampa and Jamie Hale with the Tide in Orlando as we count down to 2020 and the Outback Bowl and Citrus Bowl. As we go to break, the top player of the year for the Auburn Tigers, the Iron Bowl, November 30th, Jacoby McClain, the 100-yard pick six. We'll be right back. Well, take a look at this. Auburn will wear alternate helmets for the Outback Bowl in tribute to 1971 Heisman Trophy winner, the late, great Pat Sullivan. It'll have the Auburn shield on one side and Sully's number 7 on the other. A great way to pay tribute to a great man. Well, this time tomorrow, we ring in the new year, and we put a bow on the 2019 season. Let's hear one more time from our folks in Florida. Let's start with Patrick Brickman in Tampa with some final thoughts on the matchup between the Tigers and Golden Gophers.
Jeff, this probably applies to Alabama a little bit as well, but Auburn knows that a much worse feeling than being in the game you don't want to play in is losing in the game you don't want to play in. And they learned this the hard way 2 years ago when they lost to UCF. Multiple people have talked about that game as motivation, not just this year, but last year as well. And on top of that, this group of seniors, no offense to Minnesota, but they didn't come back to Auburn for their senior seasons to lose to the Gophers in their final game. The Outback Bowl, it's not the playoff, but these guys still talk like they have a story to finish.
We're trying to go back. We're trying to go down history, just at the end of the day, we're trying to build our legacy too. So just playing we know this is it right here. We're gonna play hard and we're gonna win that game, and that's what we're trying to do right here. We're trying to win number 10, and I feel like we're gonna do it.
So that's it for us in Tampa. For one last look at the Alabama Crimson Tide, here's Jamie Hale.
Well, tomorrow on New Year's Day, Coach Nick Saban will be across the field from Jim Harbaugh, a coach's matchup many have been looking forward to for years. The two met this morning ahead of the Citrus Bowl to talk one last time and do interviews, and both talked about the significance of this opportunity to finish the season out right. The Tide have worked hard at getting back to the Bama standard, practicing 7 days in a row in Tuscaloosa, following 5 days here in Orlando. Saban says they try not to tie the end of the season to the actual bowl game and sort of approach it like it's a one-game season.
Our team has practiced and had a good attitude about the opportunity that we have here, and I've been pleased with the way a lot of our young players have had the opportunity to improve. As you know, we have several players missing, but I think this has been a real blessing for a lot of our other players to be able to improve and grow.
So think about this. The young guys are improving and growing ahead of next season, and Dylan Moses is returning. Who knows if Tua and everyone else is returning? If so, the future is bright in 2020 for Alabama. One last time live in Orlando, ABC 3340 Sports.
And that's our show. Have a good night, everybody. Enjoy the games tomorrow.